Hey everyone, what's going on? This is the Other Club. So unfortunately, I do not have access to my own Battlefield 1 gameplay footage, so hopefully we can make do with some beautiful screenshots. I anticipate playing the beta later this summer when it is released, and I will be sure to have my own analysis and gameplay commentary videos up at that moment. Recently there has been hours of pre-alpha multiplayer gameplay footage released. After viewing a good deal of it, all I can say is that I can't wait to get my hands on the game. I am pumped that a AAA developer finally took a leap backwards away from the modern/futuristic settings that have saturated the FPS market for the last decade. If you want more information about the maps, game modes, weapons, and all the new gameplay features and whatnot, feel free to check out the big Battlefield channels like Level Cap, Jack Frags, and Matimio. They have had the opportunity to record footage and they each have several great videos uploaded on their channels. But in this series of videos, I'm going to share with you 5 things that I think will be key in taking Battlefield 1 from good to great. The first subject on our burner is unify the player base, don't divide it. And this point goes straight to the question of paid DLCs. DLCs can be very lucrative for developers. However, they can take a toll not only on the developer's brand equity, but also the unity or continuity of their player base. To prevent division in the player base post DLC and keep the BF1 player base at healthy levels until the release of the next title, DICE would caution paid DLCs in programs like Battlefield 4's premium feature. I don't mind paying for a good DLC, but one of the problems of dividing the player base with DLC is that the DLC lobbies are hot for a month or two, then eventually become ghost towns. If I were working in the finance department at DICE, I would simulate 2 scenarios to see how I can go about maximizing my profits. For the first scenario, I would place the game at $60, with $30 of DLC to be released in the future. In the second scenario, I would place the game at $70 at the outset, with free DLC content to be released in the future. I would then run estimates and compare the differences in profits generated by each scenario at a set number of copies sold. If we assume 1,000 people buy the game at $60 and only 300 out of that same 1,000 buy the $30 DLC, DICE will rack in $69,000. But if 1,000 people buy the game at $70 at the outset, DICE will rack in $70,000. You would think that almost every one of those 1,000 people would be less price sensitive at $10 during the outset when the game is hyped, fresh, and new than compared to $30 or so once the DLCs arrive months after release. I'm sure the finance team at DICE thinks about this, but it would be very interesting to get the sales figures in front of me to see if DLCs are actually as profitable as they may sound. In addition to keeping the player base unified post-DLC, I think that DICE can keep the player base unified pre-DLC by going easy on the number of game modes available at launch. Battlefield 4 and Star Wars Battlefront had way too many game modes that were always poorly populated or not even played at all. I think that DICE would be smart to keep game modes to a minimum, and especially avoid releasing DLC-specific game modes, unless they are free of course. Periodically, if DICE wants to release a new mode like they did in Battlefield 4 with Night Ops, I don't see a problem with that as long as the entire community has access to them and there appears to be a healthy demand for that game mode at the outset. And while we're on the topic of game modes, I think it would be really awesome if Battlefield 1 was able to come out with a new game mode that really shakes up and defines the multiplayer experience. While the Conquest mode will always be a Battlefield staple, the new Operations mode looks like it can fit this bill. It seems to be a massive 64-man rush game mode with behemoth vehicles included. One thing I would like to see in this Operations game mode is a challenge. To give players a real and purposeful challenge, I think that this game mode should be deliberately difficult for the defenders to win. I remember in the Star Wars Battlefront beta, it was extremely difficult to win Walker Assault as the Rebels. The attacking Empire clearly had the upper hand, and you had to fight to the very last minute to achieve victory. Winning as the Rebels actually felt like an accomplishment, and by the end of the match there was a real feeling of fulfillment. However, a lot of people did not like how difficult it was to win Walker Assault as the Rebels, and got pissed off that the Empire would steamroll them almost every time. Despite realizing that you get to play as the Empire in the next round and get the opportunity to exact revenge, the player base cried out for Walker Assault reform. By the time the game was released and updated a few times, it seemed almost impossible to win as the attacking Empire. The Walkers became extremely easy to take down, and as a result, an exceptionally crafted game mode that had a real challenge attached for players to overcome was destroyed. I think it would be great if this Operations mode had within it this sort of degree of difficulty, because overcoming the difficulty will be met with a great feeling of fulfillment. And it is this sense of difficulty and fulfillment that has escaped this modern era of video games, especially in online play. That is all we have time for today, everyone. Stay tuned for the next video in the Battlefield 1 Good to Great series on maintaining the balance between customization and immersion. On your way out, make sure you subscribe, punch that like button, and join the discussion in the comments below. This is The Other Club, signing out.